memorial service will be held for the Spring mother who was shot and killed while dropping off her son at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. And today, more than 2 weeks after her murder, police have charged a suspect in the case. Lauren Tallarico has the latest.
This brother never even saw this woman. If you subscribe to this channel, make sure you watch all the videos. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the PayPal, the Cash App, take the $5 challenge. Hit the super chat. Share these videos. We covered this story when it happened. This brother never even saw this woman. I don't want you guys who didn't see the first story to think that his brother just walked up and killed this woman. No, this brother was 2-3 blocks away and got into a parking dispute and just fired at somebody, and the bullet traveled and hit this woman. Well, she was on a balcony several blocks away. And when it happened, none of us needed to debate what the race was. We just assumed, like you do every time there's a shooting, that it was a brother. And we were right. They had no suspect. They had no information when that story originally came out. And no one debated whether or not it was a brother. We just assumed it was a brother. Now, is that bias? Are we something wrong with us? Should we check our bias? Maybe. But if that's the case, then so should everybody. Because anybody I ever know, when you hear it's a shooting, you automatically assume it's a brother. Everybody does that. Dr. Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed, when they hear it's a shooting, they know it was a brother that did it.
Murder in the first degree.
Tonight, 29-year-old Angelo Harrod is in jail without bond, charged in the death of Michelle Cummings.
I know that the arrest will not bring the family's beloved wife and mother back, but I hope this provides them with some justice.
Police Chief Edward Jackson says Harrod was arrested on June 29th, the day Cummings was killed, picked up on an outstanding warrant while they gathered enough evidence to charge him with murder.
Isn't it crazy how they can always arrest these guys on something else until they can gather evidence? Like, these guys always have warrants. Well, they always like had committed, like, I want you guys to understand that somebody out with a warrant, I've had that, I've been on the run before. Your mentality when you're on the run, and listen, I'm not like this guy. I don't want to compare myself to this guy as far as, you know, if I get in a traffic dispute, I don't even carry, so I'm not carrying. So that would be the thing right there. I'm not carrying like that, you know. But I'm not hopping out the car and just shooting at somebody over a traffic dispute. Now, who knows what the future holds? But I've been on the run before. And when you're on the run, you're living off the land, you're desperate. You're a fugitive, you're just trying to, like, if you get in a car accident, you can't wait for the cops to show up. You can't exchange information with the guy you just got in a car accident with. A cop might roll by, or the cop, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So it's just, you're a very dangerous person, period. Just an innate existence of your being at that time when you're on the run. You know? Something like a amount of traffic, you can't stay there, then the person's mad, then you got to get away, and they might cut you off, and you got to shoot at them. I mean, it's just, when I think about the victimology and how brothers is victims all the time and everything's against, you just don't understand. Like, this is typical. If you go to your local mall or you ride through a local neighborhood, not even a project, just a local Sun community, there's a bunch of guys standing outside, or a bunch of guys. A lot of those guys are wanted. Have warrants. That's what you're dealing with out here. So when the police run up, when the police drive by, they just start running. And the police like, oh shit, why that guy running? And they chase him. And it's like, oh, they just harassing them. Well, I mean, and I can't blame the brother for running because he don't know if the, but you can't blame the police for chasing them. And then it's just crazy. Or then the brother gets pulled over and they run the tags and a warrant pops up. And then they approach the vehicle with caution, with guns drawn, because he's wanted for a robbery or shooting. And then why they ain't had to do all that? Why they approached it? If he was white, they wouldn't approach his car. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Police Chief Edward Jackson says Harrod was arrested on June 29th, the day Cummings was killed, picked up on an outstanding warrant while they gathered enough evidence to charge him with murder. Early this morning, Chief Jackson delivered the news to her husband, Leonard.
He paused when I told him the news, and he said, "Thank you, Chief."
Michelle's husband shared this statement in part. My family and I are elated that an arrest has been made. We hope and pray that this arrest will start the healing process by providing answers to the many questions that my family has. Police say Cummings was killed by a stray bullet while on her hotel's patio. She was in Annapolis dropping her son off at the U.S. Naval Academy. The spring ISD Westfield High graduate was recruited to play football there.
When Trey is ready, after he is grieved and laid his mom to rest, and he has prepared himself, we will welcome him back with open arms.
Support has rolled in across the country. A football mom fund on GoFundMe has raised nearly $150,000 to help this family through their nightmare.
But you know what didn't happen? All the woke NFLs kneeling, the NFL players that kneel for George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks and Jacob Blake and donate money to their families. All those woke NFL players, they didn't see themselves in this kid. Remember, Jacob Blake could have been me. Could have been me. Could have been my uncle. Could have been my father. Rayshard Brooks, that could have been me. George Floyd, that could have been me. Now remember, they can see themselves in criminals being arrested. But this young man, whose mom was taking him to the Naval Academy to serve his country and play football, and who was just lounging on a patio with a bunch of other parents who had brought their kids, enjoying the festivities of bringing it, of that whole weekend, because it's a whole big weekend, and a bullet just hits her out of nowhere, dead instantly. None of the NFL players saw themselves in him. That could have been me. And that's why I hate those guys, and I will rail against them every time, because they're evil. They're evil people. You can see yourself in a man with enough fentanyl in his system to kill an elephant, fighting his way out of a police car, wrestling with 4 cops. That could have been me, man. Some millionaire black dude with a white wife, a white agent, a white personal assistant, a white dietitian, a white strength coach. A white realtor, white, everything. Yeah, racing, that could be me. This kid, his mom taking him to school, and they can't see themselves in that. None of them donated to this. This was all grassroots.
Support has rolled in across the country. A football mom fund on GoFundMe has raised nearly $150,000 to help this family through their nightmare.
What should have been just a fantastic celebratory time for their family just turned for the worse due to somebody else's recklessness.
In Houston, I'm Lauren Tellerico, KHOU 11 News.
We are tracking new developments in the death investigation of a Houston area mother. Michelle Cummins was shot and killed by a stray bullet while she and her husband were dropping their son off at a Naval Academy in Maryland. Today, investigators announced they have arrested Angelo Herod in connection to her murder. KPRC 2's Andy Sirota is live for us now in Northwest Houston with new details on this major development and also reaction from the family. Andy?
Lauren, good evening. Police say Michelle Cummins was not the intended target and that the shots that were fired traveled a distance, striking Cummins. Tonight, her husband vowing to keep on fighting until his wife's accused killer is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Annapolis police arrested and charged 29-year-old Angelo Herod in the fatal shooting of Houston mom Michelle Cummins last month. The 57-year-old was with her husband on a hotel patio when she was hit and killed by two stray bullets. They were in Maryland to drop off their son Trey at the U.S. Naval Academy for his induction ceremony.
I gave my word as the chief of police that we would do everything we could to arrest the person responsible for the tragic death of Miss Cummins. That promise was kept today.
Investigators identified Herod through surveillance video from the crime scene, using that evidence to gain additional information that led to a host of criminal charges, including first and second degree murder. The city's police chief called Cummins' husband this morning and broke the news to him.
He paused when I told him the news, and he said, "Thank you."
A statement released by a family friend on behalf of Leonard Truck Cummins reads in part, "My family and I are elated that an arrest has been made in the senseless murder of my beloved wife. We hope and pray that this arrest will start the healing process by providing answers to the many questions that my family has about the circumstances surrounding her senseless death. This is only the beginning. We will be actively involved with the appropriate authorities for as long as it takes to ensure that justice will prevail."
Now, you got to think about this. Of course, these people were woke. Of course, it was defund everything, every black person's a victim. And that's fine. That's how middle-class black people talk. Middle to upper-class black people feel a lot of guilt about having the things they have. And whenever something involving criminal justice or a police shooting happens or something of what happens with lower class blacks, upper to middle class blacks are always going to take their side because they feel guilty about having things and having escaped or overcome, so said, institutional systematic racism. That's why upper to middle class blacks are always talking about telling lower class blacks, yeah, man, you can't make it. This is rough out here, man. The white man holding you back, because they know that's what they want to hear. So this is a very upper class family. I'm not gonna call them boule. I don't know if they're boule, but just an upper class. There are a lot of upper class black people that aren't boule. So they're upper class. In fact, the boule is a very small unit. Most of them are mulattoes, but whatever. This group right here this family right here. You know what they were. There's a 1,000%. No, they weren't. Hey, wait a second. Defund the police. What do you mean? But my point about what I'm getting at is that this family, this man said he's going to see this through. He's going to make sure that justice, what he's, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, what this man is going to be forced to do is to make sure that a young black, disenfranchised, victim of white supremacy, victim of institutional racism, victim of systematic oppression, is locked up in jail for the rest of his life. That's the bind that this brother has been put in. You walk a woke life for 60, 70 years. I don't know how. I think the woman was 50, late 50, 60. So he's probably 60. You walk a woke life for 60 years. And then at some point, this guy has to spend his twilight years ensuring that a disenfranchised victim of systematic oppression and institutional this and systematic that spends the rest of his life in jail. Wow.
My family and I are elated that an arrest has been made in the senseless murder of my beloved wife. We hope and pray that this arrest will start the healing process by providing answers to the many questions that my family has about the circumstances surrounding her senseless death. This is only the beginning. We will be actively involved with the appropriate authorities for as long as it takes to ensure that justice will prevail. Herod was arrested on an outstanding warrant. He'd been a fugitive on the run since May 3rd. Tonight, he's being held at a detention facility in Annapolis, Maryland, without bond. Live in Northwest Houston, Andy Sirota.
A disturbing case. The mother of a Naval Academy inductee killed at a hotel in Annapolis. The arrest just announced. Hello, everyone. I'm Vic Carter.
And I'm Denise Coker. What was supposed to be a joyous occasion shattered by a stray bullet.
After an intense investigation, the accused gunman is now in custody.
And WJZ is live at Annapolis Police Headquarters. Paul Gessler has more on what led the officers to this suspect. Paul.
Well, Denise, Michelle Cummings was sitting on the patio of her hotel just around the corner from here at Annapolis Police Headquarters, in town to see her son's induction into the Naval Academy when she was fatally struck by a stray bullet last month. Police Wednesday say the person of interest that they took into custody the next day is now charged with her murder. She was in town to celebrate her son and instead became the unintended victim of gun violence. 16 days later,
Some nights I couldn't sleep. I felt rage.
Annapolis police announced they've arrested Michelle Cummings' murder suspect, Angelo Harrod, who will be charged with first and second degree murder.
Your intent can be transferred. If you have evil intent, that doesn't lessen your evil intent.
Police say the bullet that struck Cummings was intended for others. It came from Pleasant Street, went through some trees and a fence, and hit her on the hotel's patio.
Pleasant Street. The irony. The irony can't be ignored. This guy was on Pleasant Street. The bullet went through trees, but had one of those bullets just hit a branch, maybe it goes off course and just, God. And he was trying to kill another black person. Who thinks he was shooting at a Capitol rioter or a Klansman or a Proud Boy? He was trying to kill a black person, and that's exactly what he did. He just killed the wrong black person.
Intent can be transferred. If you have evil intent, that doesn't lessen your evil intent.
Police say the bullet that struck Cummings was intended for others. It came from Pleasant Street, went through some trees and a fence, and hit her on the hotel's patio.
What should have been just a fantastic celebratory time for their family just turned for the worse due to somebody else's recklessness.
Police say they ID'd Harrod as a person of interest the day after Cummings was killed. On June 30th, patrol officers chased him down here near the corner of Forest Drive and Tyler Avenue. Court records show he's charged with resisting arrest and assaulting an officer that day.
This was a senseless tragedy.
The chief says Harrod should have been on home detention, but cut off his ankle bracelet.
He was supposed to be on home detention, but he cut off his ankle bracelet. If I had $1 for every time I did a story on that, make sure you take the $5 challenge, hit the like button. God. And these ankle bracelets are something that's being done even more and more now because they want to get away from keeping people in jail. Had it just been 2 years ago and this guy was in jail, God. And this is happening all over the country. And even for this guy, if he had been in jail for whatever he was in jail for, he wouldn't have committed this crime that now he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail for.
The chief says Harad should have been on home detention, but cut off his ankle bracelet. The reward for information leading to an arrest grew to nearly $60,000 last week, all while Harad has been in custody. Michelle's husband thanked the community for its support.
And all that y'all are doing to help me and my family, my son and my daughter, through this process.
The Naval Academy superintendent said law enforcement brought the family justice.
When Trey is ready, after he is grieved and laid his mom to rest, and he has prepared himself, we will welcome him back with open arms.
Back live now, we are told Harad will be charged with a host of other charges, including attempted murder for those victims for whom those bullets were intended. Cummings' memorial service is tomorrow in Houston, her funeral in Baton Rouge on Saturday. Reporting live in Annapolis, I'm Paul Gessler for WJZ.